Welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
welcome to Celebrating Black Excellence with your hosts, the conscious of Kalamazoo, Brother Buddy Hannah, and the pastor of the Mount Zion Baptist Church, Dr. Addis Moore.
We are back once again for another installment of Black Excellence. Look, we're so grateful that you've tuned in tonight. And look, there are others that want to get tuned in, but they forgot. They need a notification. So right now, would you please share this with someone and call someone, let them know, like, Black Excellence is on. Pastor Moore, Buddy Hannah, we're here, and we got some phenomenal guests tonight. You don't want to miss it. And so, as per usual, tonight, if you got questions and comments, please put them in the chat. We got our chat master ready to read the chats and send them to us. And Buddy and I have learned how to at least read what's written to us. And so we can ask the questions and do the comments. So, Buddy, welcome. Good to see you again.
Once again, same here, Pastor. Welcome. Good to see you again, and good to be with our viewers and listeners and all of that out there. We like the pastor said, we have a wonderful show for you tonight. We honored to have with us two young men that many of you may know because you've heard about them because they're very active in the community, and you know their names, and some of you now will know their face. So we have with us tonight Vaughn Washington Jr., and we also have Sean M. Hollins. So we've got a good show, and as the pastor already explained to you what's going on, so please send us your questions, your comments, and all of the good stuff that we can share with other people as well as with our guests. So if you're ready, I'm ready.
Well, Buddy, I'm learning something already, though, because you said it was Sean M. Hollins. Is M. Hollins? Wow. Right away, it's been informed. I know him for a while. Sean M. Hollins. So look, once again, let us know that you're there. Give us some feedback. We were excited. And, Buddy, I'm excited tonight because you remember last month we had all ladies.
I know.
And tonight we got men.
We got men. We got all men. Yeah. It's time. It's good. Let the brothers speak.
And so we're excited tonight. Once again, as Buddy said, we've got Vaughn Washington Jr. and Sean M. Hollins here tonight. And we're excited about both these young men that's doing phenomenal things in our community. And I can't wait to get into the discussion to see what they're doing, how they're doing it, how they continue to do it and make an impact in our community. And so I'm excited about this show tonight, Buddy. I'm looking forward to it. And so if you're ready, I'm ready. And so won't you push us off and we'll start paddling this boat.
All right. Okay. Well, hey, listen, we're going to start with Sean. We're going to start with you, brother. How you doing tonight? All right, good. Hey, well, listen, I know that a lot of people know about you, and I know a lot about you because I've known you for years, and I've seen you mature into the young man that you are today, and I know some of the things that you've done, and especially with Fortitude, your printing company. But just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll start shooting them questions at you.
All right. Again, Sean M. Hollins. That's Sean Maurice Hollins. I'm born and raised here in Kalamazoo. I have 4 kids, Edward, Shamil, Cyan, and Sasha. I'm married to a beautiful young lady, Sonia Hollins, who was also born here in Kalamazoo. And we've been part of this community for years, from my grandparents being actually owners of Lessman's grocery store. So our engagement in our community have been for years, and I'm still engaged in our community. I'm a member here at Mount Zion underneath the pastorship of Dr. Addis Moore, and I'm thankful and grateful in being here with you tonight.
Okay, all right. And our next guest we'll be talking with tonight is Vaughn Washington Jr., not to be confused with Vaughn Washington Sr. I know a lot of you, when you hear that name, I know who you think of, but this is Vaughn Washington Jr. And been knowing this young man for quite some time. I had the experience to work with him in several areas on stage and off stage, and watched him mature in our community and make a contribution to it. So welcome to the show, Von.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here, and especially with Sean Maurice Hollins. Yeah, I didn't know that either, Pastor. So, yeah, Sean M.
Oh, boy, you done messed up now, Sean.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's good to be here with you. I've got a chance to know your family for a long time, and your children, and you telling me that your daughter now is going off to college.
Yes, sir.
It's just an amazing thing. So it's wonderful to be here. I've been in the Kalamazoo community 3 times now. So in the early 70s when my father was in college, then came back, was working at Kalamazoo Central High School as an assistant basketball coach, working at the Willard Public Library, just trying to put it all together, finished a master's degree, and then back now. And recently was a principal at Kalamazoo Central High School. Now that was actually 10 years ago now, buddy,
Wow.
10, 11 years ago, and working currently with the Kalamazoo Promise. Just amazing. Most people know my family. They know Beth, Donnie, and Vaughn, and we have now Sophia Francis, who is my granddaughter, who's almost 2 years old, and just pride and joy. So just excited to be here tonight to answer some questions and see what we can do to have some impact.
All right. Well, hey, listen, guys, we're going to get started, and I'm going to see, this is the way we do it. Pastor Moore asks all the hard questions. I ask all the easy ones. so we're gonna get hard right away, okay? But no, we definitely want to get started. And once again, we want to remind our audience out there, please send us your questions, and we will get them to the appropriate person or persons. So, Pastor Moore. Let's do it.
And I want to start with Vaughn, because you've done a lot of phenomenal things in our community and continue to do that. And it seems as though a lot of those things are centered around children. So can you tell us, what pushed you, what drives you, particularly in the area of children, and what do you see? What's that thing that makes you, I gotta get involved, I gotta do something about this?
Pastor, I appreciate that question because, a lot of what I am doing now was, I didn't intend to do it. They say sometimes, the job didn't find you, or you didn't find the job found you. And working with students and their development and in their lives has just been tantamount. It just reaches out to you. Dr. Janice Brown, who, when I first came back to Kalamazoo and she offered me a job to work at Phoenix Alternative School, I had lots of thoughts about what I might want to do with my education beyond being a principal. And I mentioned a number of jobs, and one thing that she told me, Pastor, was that you need to be at the point of delivery. Now, I didn't know what that meant at first. I thought it was an interesting thing for her to say, but basically what she was saying is you are meant to be in a place where you are helping young people grow, expand their lives, and understand their path. And so it's been just such a pleasure to be able to work with the Kalamazoo Promise, because we're doing that each and every day in so many ways in the community. But that's the driver. That's the driver, just watching those students mature and watch them go into their paths, and just knowing that at the time you're working with them, and I know Sean does this a lot with his mentorship, at the time you're working with them, you can't be looking for thank yous then. But later on in life, when they start finding their path, it's just an amazing thing to see them as adults and the conversations you have.
So when you look at young people, Vaughn, and when you see young black men and black children that are not excelling, or what do you see when you see our children? What comes to your mind?
The many challenges that many of our children face that get in the way before they can even see and believe in their education or forward path. There's just so many challenges, and I know this because I had a lot of those challenges too. Just trying to navigate each and every day, waking up, figuring out how I'm going to get through and to school, how I'm going to continue to make it if I was going to be in sports or the other things I was going to try to find, and just trying to have an understanding that there is something if I continue to put this work in. But the many challenges, Pastor, is what comes up to me all the time. And so we're making a lot of our business about trying to remove those barriers and try to help students succeed and see that education, that opportunity. And that education can be wrapped up in not just a 4-year degree. It can be wrapped up in a really good job that gives them an opportunity, a trade, vocational school, you name it, whatever the path is, we want to be there to support it.
And I think we should mention here too, currently with all those things that you've done, and you mentioned that you're doing, but currently Vaughn is the Executive Director of Community Relations for the Kalamazoo Promise, and that even brings him closer working with young people and everything. And I think you mentioned some of the challenges that you find happening there. But what are some of the challenges that you faced in terms of being in the position that you're working in terms of working within not only the African American community, but the Kalamazoo community? What are some of the challenges you face?
Well, the Kalamazoo Promise is the most generous offering of a scholarship that's known. It's a first dollar scholarship. We spent over $160 million, and students that graduate from the Kalamazoo Public Schools have this. And this scholarship is promised to this community in perpetuity. Now, the challenge is when you run into young people who just don't believe it's for them. When it has been designed for everyone, it's designed for everyone that graduates from the Kalamazoo Public Schools. The incentive is there. It is yours. Your name is on it as long as you meet those criteria. But when you find a young person that just thinks this is just another thing that's not for me, because they don't feel as if they have the tools or if they are meant for this opportunity, that's challenging. And we want to try to help those students. And many students, you've been able to put on another path and say, hey, this is for you. But we still have that, and you just wouldn't think you have that. So when you face it, sometimes it's a little deflating, but then you step up and you start to talk to the young person and you try to figure out how to help them out.
Now, Buddy, though, I think you, because we want to know your story, Vaughn, what have been your personal challenges? What challenges have you had to overcome? Because you know the challenges exist. And so what are some of what's your story?
And Pastor, you know, my father was in the military. So he was in the Air Force. So a big part of my story is a lot of movement. We moved at least 9, 10 times. And I know somebody listening has the same thing. So always having to make new friends, meet new people, try to fit in where you were. One of the biggest challenges for me was trying to fit in. Whether I was trying to fit in with individuals that looked like me or not. But a lot of times you didn't have a choice. It was the first person you saw when you got off the school bus. And you were trying to fit in with them and make friends. That probably is a resounding challenge for me as I continue to go. And now as an adult, I get an opportunity. But many times for us, we find ourselves in situations where we are surrounded with people that don't look like us. We are in rooms with people that don't look like us. We are competing with people that don't look like us. And we cannot let that penetrate us so much that we let it defeat us. And many of us will do that. And I've had those days when it was tough. I'm in a room, it's just me. I'm the only black person in the room, and I have to try to navigate my way. Now, I can get hung up in what I think everybody in the room is thinking about me. Or I can be right there and be that trailblazer that can really help bring someone else in the room. So my goal always is set some ground and then make sure I can pull somebody else in with me.
Like that. You know, and I like what you say that that's good advice too, to not to take it as trying to figure out what they're saying about you, but look at the opportunity that you have to do something, you know. Sometimes when we're in a position to do something, we can be trailblazers. We can open up a lot of doors. And one of the things I think that happens in our community a lot is that we miss out on a lot because we are not at the table. You happen to be at the table, so I appreciate that. So,
thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Yeah, there's this thought of the perception, and that's not only the perception from the individuals in the room. Sometimes we get hung up as a people on you're only there because of this, you're only there because of that. You hear the word token, you hear a number of things, but I decided that if the book ever gets done, the chapter is going to be called Token or Trailblazer. And we all see trailblazers from Jackie Robinson to you name it, that had to be the one that was there, paving the way to help someone else get in. And that's something that's extremely important for us, and we want to do that every day.
all right, that's good. All right. Brother Sean,
Yes, sir.
fortitude. printing company. Man, look here, you've been doing it for a long time, brother. I know you have. you even been doing it so long, helped me publish 2 of my books. But anyway.
Wait a minute, Bub. You say he helped publish. So he published also?
Oh, yes. He's a publisher. Him and his wife, they run things.
They running things.
Well, now, I think that's significant, Bubby, and I'm going to let you get to the question, but I just think that's significant that we've got a publisher here, and so many people thinking about writing, talking about what you ought to write, and maybe you ought to do it. So we actually have a publisher, and he and his wife owns a business called Seasons, I think it is. But
Season Press.
Oh, go ahead, buddy.
Season Press. Yeah. Well, first of all, how did you get started in the printing field in the first place?
Well, I started pretty much right out of high school. I knew that I wanted to do something in regards to computers and being in the computer field. So right after going to college, I went to Western. And at the time I went into Western, they didn't have a graphic design and printing program, so it was steering me into computer science, which involved a lot of math. And I knew that that's not what I wanted to do, so I ended up going to art school in Chicago. Immediately after coming out of art school, I worked for a company here in town, a local company that was very high-end, doing National Geographic magazines and Time Life and Kellogg's, and I learned some of the excellence there. And then from there, I knew I needed to do something in my church. That was where I really had the passion, because I would look at, and this is really where my mind was, I went to some funerals when I was probably around 18 or 19, and I'm looking at the picture on the front, and I'm like, this doesn't look like so-and-so, this doesn't look like grandma, why do we look so bad on our obituary covers? This is terrible. So that's where my passion started, from saying, okay, we can look better on these programs, or we can look better on the obituaries. So my passion from there was making sure that the excellence of how we remembered our loved ones was also duplicated on those obituary covers. So my start of the passion that I had was for that excellence in print, and that if somebody was to make it excellent, it would be me, because I know what our skin tones. So when we would take it to a Kinko's, they're just duplicating. They don't really care how, and that's what I felt. So from there, I kind of dove deep into it, trying to make sure that I was up to par with what I needed to do to be able to produce the quality that I seen in my mind.
Now, Sean, I know for a fact, I've been in Kalamazoo a long time, and you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but over the years that I've been here, I've only known maybe 3 serious printers, African-American printers, that had a company. Mr. McCall, who Ralph started working with, and then Ralph Jones, who you started working with. And once you got started and everything, what were some of the challenges you had to encounter to garner business from not only African-American, but from the community? What challenges you had?
Some of the challenges were, first off, one of the big challenges was actually 2 African-American men coming together to work together with different skill sets. So I came in with computer and automation of the print shop at the time, and he came in with the knowledge of printing. And we learned from each other, and we grew with each other. So we came in open-minded to be able to work together, and not necessarily looking at, well, that's my boss or he's subordinate. We were working together trying to achieve the same goal of providing quality print for our community. And outside of that, the external challenges were some of the financial challenges that we were competing with other individuals or other print companies that had a lot more equipment and had a lot more employees. So we took on the mindset that we had to get it done. So we put both of our hands to the plow, and we didn't let go until we got the job completed, and we made sure that it was to a point of excellence. And so those challenges helped us become better at our craft. And one of the great lessons I kind of grabbed from Ralph, which is RJ's Printing, was if another man can do it, we can too. And so we would look at the quality, we look at the excellence in other areas that we would be around in the community, and we would actually train ourselves. So a lot of the training that we had, we actually self-trained, or we'd get the information, or we'd talk to vendors or suppliers. How do we actually achieve this? So we learned from that aspect of looking at those challenges, not necessarily looking at them as a challenge or a roadblock, but looking at them as opportunities to learn and become better at our craft.
Now you've got this this phrase, Sean. You talk about from the business aspect, from imagination to reality.
Yes,
Can you talk about that? What does that mean?
Well, when I came up with that phrase, I knew that God had given me some things. So as I'm speaking to clients and they're telling me or kind of telling me about their project, as they're speaking, I can see it developing in my head. So they can say, well, I'm looking for this logo, or I want my book to look like, and as they're speaking, I'm seeing that whole thing lay out. I'm seeing the cover. I'm seeing the interior pages. I'm seeing the color of the book and the fonts. I'm seeing that all lay together. So that was where I started with, from imagination. And since I was able to create what they needed, I knew that I can bring it to reality. So as they're speaking, I'm seeing it develop. I know the process to make their book come to reality. So I see those steps. So as I was developing, trying to come up with a tagline, that's kind of how that was started, Pastor, that I would envision what was needed, follow the steps to produce, and end up presenting to the client the finished product, which was reality.
So talk about a little bit, Sean, your wife and you partnered and you formed this company, Seasons Press LLC. And now so you the graphic skills, her writing skills, and you come together. And so you guys actually publish books. Can you talk about that?
Yes, thank you. So I'm married to Sonia Bernard Hollins. She's a writer, a journalist from trade. And so she's worked at Battle Creek Inquirer, Kalamazoo Gazette. She's written for Black Enterprise Magazine. And so I thank God that he's gifted me with a person that, again, when you're walking with somebody and you're walking in the same direction, it makes it easy. So the things that she was trying to accomplish were things that I was trying to accomplish as well. So we were approached, I'm not quite sure the year, but the Washingtons, who owned the Community Voices at the time, was a newspaper. They approached us and said they've seen both of our works and the excellence that we put into, the energy that we put into the work that we did, as her as a writer and as me as a graphic designer. And they asked us to take over their newspaper at the time. And we jumped on the idea. We appreciate that they looked at us and were watching. And so at all points, people are watching you in every aspect of your life. And so we purchased the newspaper from them, and immediately we turned it right into a magazine. So at that point, Season Press was established. And so Season Press, the name actually is kind of combined between my first three initials, Sean, S-E-A, and Sonia's first three initials, S-O-N. So that's how we came up with Season. And Season Press, we knew that we would be publishing, putting together magazines, and we're able to put together books. So the first book project that we launched off on was Sonia was writing a book, and she had been doing research for years in Battle Creek about the musicians that came out of Battle Creek, from Junior Walker and the All-Stars, Al Green, and a lot of famous musicians actually navigated their way through Battle Creek. And she had all this research. She wanted to put together a book. And we kind of put those two things together, what she had written and then what my graphics designing skills were. And that was the first book that we published, was Here I Stand. And so I thank God for my wife and her ability to write and to visualize what people see in words, and I'm able to take that and translate that into graphics.
Now look, Facebook and YouTube audience, you're hearing some phenomenal things from these two men here tonight. This is your opportunity to ask questions, to make comments, to glean from them. I'm seeing some come in already, buddy, but make sure, let's take advantage of this information that we're having our presence tonight. And these men are here in Kalamazoo making a difference here in Kalamazoo. So here, let us hear from you. As I said, we've got our chat master. He's on the chat machine, and so he's shooting them to us, and he got it hooked up. So all we got to do is read it. As long as we don't touch anything, we're fine. So, buddy.
You got that right, Pastor. You see where my hands in, man. But, and speaking of that, we do have, first we have a comment, Vaughn, and the comment was when you mentioned about the book in the chapter, Token of Trailblazers, someone said, I love that. They love that. So already
appreciate that.
you're getting some publicity for it.
All right, we appreciate that.
But they had a question for you, and the question was, I heard you can use the promise out of town, or is it just in Michigan?
All right, yeah, so it is just in Michigan. So any public college or university in Michigan, many of the trade schools, and 14 of the private schools that are in the Michigan College Alliance, you can use it in Michigan.
So you can use it out of Kalamazoo, but it has to be in the state of Michigan.
Just within the
anywhere in the state of Michigan that there's a college or trade school or what have you.
That's correct, anywhere in the state of
Man.
Michigan. You can't go out of the state with it.
Wow, okay, all right. Sean, we're going to throw one at you. There was a comment from Colette Edwards, and she said, great work, Sean. I still have the business card you did when I had my daycare.
Thank you. Yes, I remember when she started her business, and she came in regards to the daycare that she had started here on the north side, and we put together the logo and the business card. So that's kind of how I give back to our community. I help a lot of startup or businesses develop their prepackaged before they actually start business, from letterhead, stationery, anything that they might need.
Vaughn, I guess a question for you is, Pastor mentioned the fact about your involvement with young people and everything, but also your involvement with education.
Yeah.
Speak a little bit on that. Why is that so important to you?
It's real important, and I'd like everyone to know, it was never an intention. I didn't know. My experience in school was one of trying to fit in, move to several schools. So I never dreamed that my path would lead me back to education. But it did, by way of trying to coach, trying to mentor, and try to really just feel a way for myself. And so got a chance to be in a place where education is extremely important. One thing I do know, the thing that they say is once you have it, they can't take it away from you. This is true. So once you possess knowledge, that is knowledge that will carry you from place to place. My father used to tell me all the time, he would say it, and for many of us, you hear something from an adult, it doesn't internalize till later on. But he used to tell me, read newspapers because it will make you a more interesting person. I didn't know what that meant until I read something in the news, went to a particular place, and people were talking about it, and I could talk about it too. So the more you know about various things, whether you think they apply to you right now or not, can carry you in many situations, no matter where you go. So we don't read newspapers as much anymore. I'm not trying to say don't try, but there are lots of publications. There are lots of good information. I don't want anybody finding bad information out there on the internet, but there's lots of good information, things to read to help make you someone that can carry yourself into any room and be a part of the conversation.
So, Vaughn, in the role that you are currently in now, you're Executive Director, Community Relations, Kalamazoo Promise. What are some of your challenges? You are still black. You still have to navigate in this society. So what are your challenges? Because you're able to do that. You're staying with it. You are making impact. What have you had to overcome, or what are you overcoming? What challenges have you faced even in this role?
In this role, it really is the thought of you have this opportunity like the Kalamazoo Promise, but people are still looking. They get into numbers. They get into a number of things, and they already have preconceived notions about a good majority of the students that we have in Kalamazoo that will use the Kalamazoo Promise. We have poverty in Kalamazoo. We have things that are happening in Kalamazoo that happen in many communities. We have violence in Kalamazoo. We have a lot of challenges. We have homelessness in Kalamazoo. So these are challenges that we face. So then those critics that come in and say, well, you're giving a scholarship, but it's not changing the world immediately, we have to continue to make sure that we're fighting that. We're fighting negative stereotypes about our children. We're fighting negative stereotypes about things that may be happening in our community. And just people in general thinking that you're throwing money at a problem when this is not what's happening. This is a hand up, not a handout. And so we want to continue to face those. But those are still challenges, Pastor, that many people don't think we would face.
So how do you have to navigate systemic problems in executing the promise to people that really need it? And as you mentioned, we know a lot of statistics about African-American graduation rates and things like that. So what challenges you have, or systemic things do you see that we've got to overcome this, and you're dealing with systems and structures that will hinder a person from actually taking advantage of that? So could you talk about some of those?
I can, and Pastor, the biggest one that comes up is a seat at the table. Having the voice in the room where the decisions are being made. I can't say it enough that we have to find ourselves there. Now, it can be intimidating, talking about being on boards, talking about being on committees, in places that maybe we may or may not used to be and or invited to. But this is what's important, and this is one of the things that I find. We want to always pull somebody in, help us all understand where the decisions are being made, and then be able to impact it there. We do a lot of good work each and every day. People are right there at the point of delivery doing things. But even as an educator, we were depending on those individuals that were in the room to make it easier for us to execute and create equity for the job that we were doing. We couldn't do it where we were. We were in the face of the challenge. Someone else has to be doing it. It's not a myth. It is a place that we can be. It is a place where we are invited to be right now to give commentary and input. We need to help each other understand how to get in the room and be there where the decisions are being made.
So is it true, Vaughn, and then Buddy, is it true that in a lot of cases, if we are not at the table, oftentimes our agenda is not on the table?
Absolutely, yeah. And we cannot expect that people have our best interests at heart that don't know our story, that don't know what we've been through and what we're doing. You just can't expect it. We do it a lot. We want people to celebrate. We want people to do things on particular times. We have to be the ones to initiate the conversation. We get tired, we get weary, we don't want to always be the one, but I'm telling you, if we're not doing it, we cannot have an expectation that someone else has our best interests at heart.
I don't need a actually number for this, but I do need you to give me some kind of answer for this. How often do you find yourself the only African American in the room?
At least 80% of the time, when I am either in a meeting, I am engaging in a place where there are large numbers of people, conferences, places where there are education, and in rooms where decisions are being made. Over 80% of the time, I'm the only person of color in the room. I can say that now unequivocally. I know this, and for many people, they say, what are you counting every time you go in there? You can't help but notice that you're the only one. So some people have the luxury of not worrying about that. But every time we walk out, we have to worry about it. Whether you're in a grocery store, a pharmacy, no matter where you are, we're always looking to see if there are individuals like us that are in the space, and that creates a different level of comfort no matter what we're doing. So, Buddy, about 80% of the time.
Yeah, cool. Sean, we have a question for you. It's a comment and a question. It says, Sean, it is one thing to be gifted in graphic designing. You also have the gift of advertising. Is that a learned skill, a gift, or from personal experience?
It's kind of both. I believe that if you're able to create something that you're able to market, and you're able to sell what you have created, then you're advertising what you're doing. And if you're able to do that successfully, whether it's your business, whether it's your talent, so like right now, when we put together a book, that's literally advertising what we do, but it's based on the gift and the talent that I did in excellence. So I believe that answer, Buddy, is both.
But then, Sean, part of that, though, there is that, because when you start dealing with gifting, you actually love what you're doing. Yes. So, I mean, do you love what you're doing? Do you just wake up and want to do this graphic and this designing stuff?
I do. I really actually enjoy what I'm doing, and I will say it, and I'm not going to say it. This isn't advertising. Let me just go ahead and premise that.
You can advertise.
But what I'm going to say is that I would do what I'm doing for free.
Oh,
but
no,
I happen to actually have people pay me for what I'm doing. So that part wasn't advertising. But since it's a passion of mine, I enjoy doing it. I go to sleep thinking of things and how to create and how to make something better, look better visually. I wake up like, okay, I can't wait to get to the computer to design that. I don't get tired doing it, Pastor, and I know that since it's a gift from God, there's no sorrow added to that gift and blessing. So I truly enjoy doing what I'm doing, to the point of my satisfaction really comes once I hand my customer either their book or their project and they see it for the first time, and I get satisfaction when they're like, wow, that gives me, okay, I did my job. And so I think that that part of it is, again, as a gift, I totally enjoy doing it, and it does not make it hard, and it's not something that I got to struggle to do.
Sean, let me ask you this. In your bio, it says that you have, worked with local printers. Your skills have been ordered you to bring unique graphic design services to different companies. You've designed award-winning logos and websites for credit unions, small businesses, churches, athletes, and politicians. We know that all of these people were not African American. What was the challenge you faced to get the non-African American business to get them to come to you and say, hey, I want you to,
Well, buddy, you say you didn't answer our questions, but you starting to get some of them hard questions on the table. So some of the challenges to get some of the business from some of the white companies has pretty much been what Von had mentioned. How do you get to the table? And getting to that table, because, again, the network of how other cultures do their business is you have to be at that table. And if you're not at that table, then they're able to navigate that work to whomever they want to go with to either design or print what they're doing. And the challenge sometimes is getting at that table. And to kind of touch on what Brother Von was speaking of is that some of the challenges now, especially in the season that we're in, the COVID season, is that I know that they're trying to do a lot of these initiatives to say there's room at the table. But what I'm seeing as far as in a business standpoint, they give you room to get a loan. They will promote you to have $100,000 of equity buildup, but actually giving me a contract that will give me perpetuity of a business from a Pfizer or a Kellogg. That's the hard part to get to the table. But they say, hey, we've actually established a lot of money for you to actually go into debt, but not come out of going into a profit standpoint. So those challenges are still I'm facing and navigating through, but those challenges, they don't stop me. There's a way to get to the table, and the 6 degrees of separation, there's a way to get there. So when you have a mindset that you can achieve it, there's no roadblock.
Right. Well, Sean, you actually kind of picked some business type things there. I heard what you're saying. And now I guess you're talking about systems and structures wherein you were saying that you can get enough money to get in debt, but you can't get the contract to really excel. Is that what you were saying?
Yes, sir. So trying to get a contract, to look at Fortitude, and right now Ralph, RJ's Printing and Fortitude, we have combined both of those. So right now, we are the only minority printer between here, Chicago, and Detroit.
Okay, now pause and say that again, and say that strong in the camera so everybody in the world can hear that. Say that again.
Right now, we are the only minority printer between Chicago and Detroit in the Southwest Michigan area. So to be able to go into these doors that these corporations are actually saying, hey, we have money set aside, not necessarily set aside, but we have money that we want to help with, and they're calling it diversity inclusion. So to get at the diversity and inclusion of some of these companies and large corporations getting to that table, they will have forums and have conferences all about talking about how to get to the table. And you're there with them at the table, but they make the challenges to get that contract so challenging that it's sometimes overbearing. Then when you get done with all the paperwork and all the logistics and the certifications, then they're like, well, we don't have anything yet. But you still see their cereal boxes, you still see their publications go out, you still see a lot of work that's being produced. But the structure of it is not necessarily to give you something that will sustain your business. They give you something and they point you to, well, you need more money to actually get to a larger position to be at a table, but now you're in debt. So those are some of the systems that we're trying to navigate through right now, Pastor.
Yes, and I think you mentioned the point, and Buddy, when you first mentioned that question, because this segment, Accelerating Black Excellence, and I think for Vaughn and you and Sean, is that even when you get to the table, we've got to be able to compete at a level of excellence. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Because we're not looking for anybody to reduce anything for us, that we can excel and do the job at the level as well or better than anybody else. Can you guys speak to that, Vaughn and Sean?
Well, one of the things that I've seen that, again, being at the table or being in the golf course or being wherever a lot of they do their business is that I've actually seen and heard that they actually have helped individuals. They have bought companies and actually said, I want you to run this company, and when you run this company, we will give you all of our work. So the parent company actually paid for them to get established, bought their equipment, and helped them get employees to feed millions of dollars to this company. So now when we're at the table, it's a challenge to actually get those dollars because they've already established decades of history with another company. And when you go into the table, now they're like, okay, wait a minute, now you're taking something away from us. And you're trying to take business away, but you've been getting that. I mean, it's really can be mind-boggling how many hurdles and mazes that you have to go through to even get a business card order. We just secured that with a major company, Fortune 500 company, but to jump through the hurdles to even get just a business card order from this Fortune 500 company was just mind-blowing. And they're trying to make sure that, okay, that's all you're getting for right now. But you're seeing billions of dollars go out from this company in regards to printing.
But I think, and that's what this segment is about, in spite of setbacks, in spite of roadblocks, in spite of hurdles, you still are doing it.
Yes.
And it's possible to get it done.
Yes.
And I think sometimes as African Americans, we have to realize that some things have not changed and are not changing, but we still got to excel in spite of it. Right. That's what I'm saying.
And in your case, Vaughn, and you can speak on this, you're not from the business standpoint. However, once you at the table, you have to know what you know to stay at the table, right?
You do. You know, it can be extremely intimidating, and you want to be there. You know, you'll lack confidence. You'll be worried, and in many cases, if you don't have a mentor in there, as Sean mentioned, it's listening, it's going to a conference, it's understanding exactly what the pieces are for you to get there, and there still can and will be barriers as long as individuals think that for you to get something, they have to lose something,
Right.
you're going to be in a challenge. And that's exactly what we're facing right now with all of our work in diversity and inclusion, anti-racism work, anti-bias work. A lot of that's going on. We're all on a journey. I'm on a journey. We're all on a journey to make sure that we're there and treating people with kindness and understanding in humanity. But once someone feels like, hey, for you to gain, I have to lose, then that's where another challenge and another roadblock comes up. And as Sean mentioned, we're going to fight through that. Either we're going to help you understand how it's not that way, the beauty of what we have to do, and that's on us. The onus is on us to make sure we have to have the extra energy to try to help educate. And then when we can help people understand that alongside we're much stronger together, then we got something. But you got to be in a room where some of those decisions are being made.
Yeah.
Because once again, expecting someone else to have your best interest at heart is a bad losing proposition.
You got a couple of questions there, Pastor?
Yes, sir. Mr. Washington, how many years do you have to use the promise? That's one of the questions we
All
have.
right, well, you know, I can talk about the Kalamazoo Promise all day long. Once you graduate from high school, and this is one of the beauties of the generosity of this scholarship. Every other scholarship we know of is use it or lose it. They're beautiful scholarships. A scholarship's a beautiful thing, but the Kalamazoo Promise, you have 10 years to use your scholarship. So it's built so life can get in the way. Life gets in the way for us. People will stop, start, move along the path, change direction. 10 years, Pastor, to use your promise.
All right, Mr. Washington, are the colleges reaching out to kids with the promise to help them navigate college life?
We have some work that we are doing with our local community schools. So with Western Michigan University, Kalamazoo Valley Community College, and now with Kalamazoo College, who's been on board for about 4 years now. We have individuals that work directly with Promise students there at those 3 institutions. Other institutions we have found have a multitude of resources on their campuses, things that are engaged for students to be able to plug in. We just got to make sure we find our way there. So we're trying to do stuff on the front end. We're trying to help students understand now, go here, look here, call there, and at a minimum, just call us again. Call the Promise office, and we'll help you navigate. You're in that 10-year window. We're with you all the way.
Can you share, Vaughn, how to get in touch with your office?
The easiest way to get in touch with our office, and I'll put it out there, that's my cell phone number, all right? So we're working that way, 269-207-9935. That is one of the fastest ways. I'm always picking that phone up, trying to make sure if there's somebody is in help, we can get some help to them. So that's one of the best ways to reach us. If not, go on our website, kalamazoopromise.com. And then you can reach any of our staff members there and get further information about the Kalamazoo Promise. And if you're in your journey, we're there to support you.
So now, and I need you to give that number one more time because we need people to hear that number. We've got a lot of information here tonight, expertise, and we really want to take advantage of this time. So anybody, now you're in school, you've just graduated, you're not attending college right now. So Vaughn, speak to those people and give that number again, please.
Yeah, so when you're in your 10-year window, and a lot of people don't understand where they stand within that 10 years, give us a call. I keep running into students that are in their 7th and 8th year thinking, oh, I messed it up. Oh, I don't have it anymore. It's gone. Because most things aren't for 10 years in your life. So make sure you just give us a call and call us 269-207-9935. Now, I will tell you, I'm like anybody else. I see a strange number, I'm not picking it up. Leave me a message, and I will call you back. That's just in all honesty. So call me, leave a message, I'll get back to you. But we want anybody who has stopped, faced challenges and barriers, please hit us up. We're looking for you. At any given time, we have about 1,500 students who have started school, no longer going, and facing challenges that we might be able to help with.
Now, you're saying that you can call the Promise office and you'll help them navigate through any challenge they need to ensure that they're successful. Is that true?
Absolutely. It's our intention. And we're connected with lots of community partners. So you'll call us. It ain't like we got all the answers right there, but we are connected with community partners throughout this community and asking them to leverage their assets. I mean, there are some anonymous donors that have given over $160 million and promised this in perpetuity. babies being born, Bronson Borges, and wherever in this community right now are being born with a college scholarship and an opportunity, hit us up. Let us know where you are. We want to try to help you as you navigate your journey.
Look, we've got about 10 minutes left, and so if you got a question or comment, please get those in, and we'll ask these two gentlemen and make your comments known to them before we get off. Buddy?
And Buddy, before the next question, I just want to tell Sean and Sonia, thank you, because they just put out another children's book, a coloring book, and it's Black Heroes. And my father happened to be in that one. So Buddy talked about Vaughn Washington Jr., Vaughn Washington Sr., and Vaughn Washington III. But I will tell you now, I appreciate that. It meant a lot for him to see that. He is someone that has been in the performing arts for many, many years and at Western and running the Black Theater program there, which has brought so many through. And obviously with him and my mother, their education and their feel for it has brought me into it. But that was a very special publication and very special to him.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have a copy of that?
Hey, man, I appreciate that. And we did one for men, and we also did one for the women of Kalamazoo, the first African-American, first women of Kalamazoo. So those are actually touching history. You can still touch Dr. Washington. You can actually glean from the knowledge that he has. So we want to make sure that a lot of times when we look at people in history, we go all the way back to Harriet Tubman and individuals that are in our past that we gotta read about, but now we got living history in our community that you can touch, as well as these men that are up on stage. Was Buddy Hannon's a living history. Dr. Moore is a living history. Brother Vaughn is a living history. I mean, he actually have knowledge that you can glean from. So reach out to these men and get the information that'll help you navigate through life.
Sean, let's talk quickly about your publishing end of it. We talked about the other part. What challenges do you face? Now, I know that you've done a lot of publishing of local authors here in town, you know, and maybe some out-of-town authors. But what challenges have you faced from your own community, from Black people? Because a lot of times I realize, you know, having been around and worked with you all in the beginning about publishing and doing different things, I know that sometimes new writers, we don't understand the publishing business. We don't know. So what challenges have you faced in terms of educating and getting businesses from African-American writers?
Some of our challenges in regards to that question have been sometimes they come in without the preparation that is needed to totally produce their book. And it will require either a lot more on our half to actually help them publish. And some of the things that we've come across in the past was, since my wife, she does a very good job with character development, they had come in with a manuscript that's kind of written, but it's kind of scattered all over the place. And as she helps develop the character or develop the storyline as it navigates through the book, when we get done with the process, they're like, that ain't what I came in with. And I don't know, I want to go back to what I want or what I came in with. So some of the challenges from there was how do we actually still help that person produce their book? And since our name is associated, there's been some books that we've published that we did not put our name on because it would be a representation of who we are. We help the publisher or the writer write the book, but we would not put our logo or Season Press logo onto that book because it was not the quality that we knew that it should have been and could have been. So those are some of the things, but again, we'll still help the writer or author navigate through that process and even point them in the direction of how they can actually do it if they don't want to use us. So we're still here to try to help and assist because everybody, and my wife says it good, everybody has a story in them.
Question. Awesome. Where can I get the coloring book?
The coloring book can be found at the newsstand agency downtown, the newsstand there. She does a great job there of making sure local authors have their books there, but that's one place that you can get it. Or you can call or actually email seasonpub@gmail.com, which is the Season LLC book arm that you can actually reach out to, which is Season, S-E-A-S-O-N, pub, P-U-B, @gmail.com.
You better get your initials right. Come on, Maurice, what you doing to us over here? And I think it was Sonia's part that he was. No, I'm just messing around.
Well, see, what's kind of cool about our initials, all of our kids, we all got the same initials, so it's SMH, so it covers her as well.
That's good. And the Kalamazoo Promise, we were so enamored by the book. We bought a bunch of them. So we bought a bunch of them. We're giving them to elementary students and stuff like that. But we have a strong feeling that every student should have one of these. So it's going to be one of our goals to try to make sure that everybody has one in their hands before the end of the school year.
Thank you, thank you.
It's advice segment, Vaughn, buddy.
Yeah. Okay, we only got a few minutes left. I mean, y'all see all these big clocks all around, right? We only got a few minutes left. So here's the question. What advice, and this is for both of you, and we'll start with you, Sean. What advice would you give to African Americans, and what advice would you give to non-African Americans? Just advice in life and whatever.
To African Americans, I will give, find a mentor. Find something, a young African American, even if you're trying to do something, find somebody that's doing it with excellence and allow that person to actually give you the skills and the necessary information to actually help you do what you're trying to do successfully. You don't have to invent the wheel. There's a wheel already rolling. Get on board with that. You can actually connect with any of the men up on this stage, and I'm sure that they'll give you everything that you might need to help you or give you a step in stone to get you closer to your goal. Dr. Washington over there, I mean, phenomenal resource and a connection of people. He's a people person, so I just thank you for being on the stage, or that I'm on the stage with you and being able to glean from the knowledge and information that you have. And for white individuals, brothers and sisters, be open-minded to hear some of our story. Be open-minded to listen to what we might say, and it's not necessarily all negative, and sometimes you'll see or hear that it's coming from a negative vein, but it's not. Listen to the story and be open to hear that story from another culture.
Vaughn?
Oh, man, that's good advice. I kind of wish I would have went first, but Sean, you're so right. That whole openness. So I'm gonna put us all together. So both groups of individuals. Let's take a step back, and if you can visualize it, just a step back, and then let's lean in. And what I mean by that is we cannot be so critical. Nobody can make a mistake, not even one. Somebody probably got something to say about something that got said here tonight. I'm just saying. Step back, and then let's lean in and give people an opportunity to learn from mistakes. People gonna make mistakes. We're looking for mistake-free people out here right now. That's nobody. That's none of us. Everybody has an opportunity that they're going to make a mistake. When they do, let's learn how to communicate, talk about it, and then move each other forward. But we cannot do it if we're going out the door, high criticism, ready to go, if we're in our phones, if we're in our social media, ready and looking for everybody to make an error. You can find mistakes when you want to, but it's time for us, especially as a community, I'm talking to this community, let's step back real quick. We've talked about some wonderful things. We talked about people of color that are publishing, people that have made it through. We talk about a most amazing scholarship offering that is of any community across the country or that we know in the world. These things are happening right here in our community. Let's take a step back. And then let's lean in as the school year starts, as everybody's looking for criticism during the pandemic. Let's step back right now, take a breath, and then let's lean into each other and into the community.
That's good.
All right.
Buddy, I think this has been a phenomenal session tonight, and I definitely want to thank you, Vaughn, for taking time to make it here. We've been trying to get you here, and you're here, and it's been worth it. And Sean, representing you and your wife, thank you so much for coming. Facebook audience, thank you. It's been a phenomenal night, and Buddy, I guess we need to look at our report card.
Yeah, well, if we look at our report card, and this time I'm going to ask you, did when it comes to informing, do you think we did that?
I think so, because right off the bat, I was informed. So I'm going to answer for the Facebook group. We was informed, right? Okay, I saw the red light. Means yes. Okay.
All right. Then when it came to inspiring,
I believe we did. I think I see one of the cameramen look like he inspired. So I think, yes, definitely. Because with the stories we heard and the opportunities with the promise and this entrepreneurship, yes.
and when it comes to encouraging, do you think we provided some encouragement for people?
With the nuggets we heard, and particularly about being at the table and taking the opportunities and how you behave when you're at the table and how you navigate these systems that we're in, I think individuals are encouraged to push forward and to lean in, as Vaughn said.
And last but not least, do you feel we motivated people tonight?
I believe we're going to see some action in our community because of this segment tonight. And so I think we did well, buddy.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, man. And then once again, I think we have a good show, and I want to thank both of you young men for being here and wish you much continued success in your areas of, and you have our wholehearted support.
Thanks for having us.
I got a comment. This is what our whole YouTube and Facebook audience said. Everybody that's watching said this. Yes, you hit all the areas. Great session. Yes. So everybody on YouTube and everybody on Facebook, Vaughn, said this. All right? That's what I've got. I got it on record. Buddy, you see it?
I see it.
Okay.
I see it, man. Yeah. Oh, we got time to read this other two?
Yeah, we got to read that.
If the chat master make it bigger.
Chat master.
Yes. Phenomenal indeed. Wow. Very informative. All of those good comments. Good. Thank you very much.
We're so glad that you were able to share with us tonight. Pray with us. God, we thank you now for another opportunity to experience your gifts that you've given to the body, that you've given to this world, how you use these men in their individual areas to build our community, to build humanity, to make our community better. Lord, thank you now for their efforts. Thank you for the gifts you've placed in them, the influence that you've given them. We honor you now and give them success as they move forward. We bless you now. Thank you for every viewer tonight. We honor you now in the name of Jesus. This is our service prayer. Amen.
Amen.